3, 2.
Hey everybody.
Action.
Welcome to Trickle Down Geek Economics. I'm Jim.
I'm Sean.
And we're going to talk to you about the kind of the future of and the overview of what we're going to do coming up here in the next videos you'll see on our channel. And one thing, I mean, we'll be doing reviews, we'll be doing playthroughs, unboxings, maybe talk about
Jokes.
Well, if you can call them that, cinema. We might do some movie reviews and that kind of thing. Maybe talk about games we'd like to see be made, all those kind of topics. So we're working on starting a podcast as well. So when we get that going, we'll let you know, and hopefully you'll tune in. So yeah, we're gonna. I forgot what I was my last
Movie reviews.
Yeah, all that kind of.
I may discuss literature and some of the finer arts.
Books.
Yeah.
Yeah, books.
Not the picture books, right. Chapter books.
But yeah, so there's all those kind of topics. There's anything that we decide, even sports. Who knows? Tobacco. We do like smoking cigars. We don't want to promote tobacco use, but we do enjoy. Anywho, so one thing I want to do is I want to talk about. I've got a bunch of stuff that I kickstarted, so I just want to throw that out. And I know Sean, I know Ken as well.
Give me a couple of your Kickstarters, and then I'll do one of mine, and then we'll kind of go back and forth a little bit.
All right. So one that's going to be ending in 4 days here is Hour of Need. It's by Blacklist Games. It's the Brady Brothers. I've already got 2 of their games, Street Masters and Brook City. Brook City is a great kind of an 80 cops board game, and then Street Masters is like Street Fighter in a board game. Really good card system that they've created. I can't think of the name of the card system that it's under, but it's really cool. And then now Hour of Need's their comic book game.
So it's going to be the same system, you think?
Same system, a little
engine?
Little variant in it, but it looks really cool. And I'm excited about that game. Those guys make really good stuff. So that's one I've got going.
Go through another one because I have a much shorter list.
Okay.
So,
Chronicles of Drunagar, Age of Darkness, which is another kind of dungeon explore game with a really neat layered terrain system, and it's got a really cool, even just little things like when you come to a door, it's got a card for the door, and you unfold the card, and then it shows you how you set up the next map and all the information about it, which is really cool. It's got a really neat kind of a complex, not complex, but a lot of variety in how you build up your character and how you use their abilities, and kind of, again, a little resourcey moving, you spend points, energy from different areas to do different things, and it's really cool. Really, it looks really like it's going to be a lot of fun, so I'm looking forward to that. Want me to do another one?
I've got Anno Domini 1666, which I backed a long time ago, and as I'm sitting here, I'm embarrassed because I'm going to be a little bit vague on the nature of the game because I don't recall as much as I should about the mechanics of it. I have been following the updates and so forth, but it's a sort of a Three Musketeers type tabletop game with what looks to be a beautiful set of miniatures, and so there's intrigue. I don't know that it's specifically limited to the Three Musketeers type of genre, but it's that era, and so and there have been some delays, and it's a Polish-based game. In other Polish designers, and I think they've done some nice things in the past, but it's just the communication is, and it's not a negative in any way. It's just sometimes a little bit, sort of the English as a second language in the communication department. So I'm not, and I'm half the time I'm reading these updates, while I'm driving or things like that. So
Don't drive
just
and
kidding.
look at your phone.
I'm kidding. But I am reading them while I'm distracted or watching, Mandalorian or something like that.
Right.
So I'm not paying a ton of attention. I'm just going to wait till the game gets here. But the miniatures look really good, and there's a broad range of figures that are going to come with this game.
Well, I know it has cool things built into it, like you can jump on tables and do like cool,
Daring do,
daring do stuff, and that part I know they built into the game, which is really neat. And it's not something that I don't remember the playthrough thing that I saw, and it wasn't like some overly complex set of rules to make you do that. It just kind of flowed really well.
I hope so. Three Musketeers. I love the books. Some of the movies. I love the genre. It's one of my favorites.
Oh, it's great.
And played a couple of simple Three Musketeers type games at a convention, but we've never really done one with any great length. And so I hope this could become that.
Yeah.
Something that we really dive into.
When I saw that, I was thinking about backing it, and it just left my mind. And I think I had plenty of things I was backing, and I'm glad you did it because I'm looking forward to that one. So I have Aeon Trespass Odyssey, and again, it's a 1 to 4 player game. It's a big adventure, massive adventure game, beautiful miniatures. Again, Kingdom Death, when that came out, it really changed the landscape of figures. I mean, just crazy things with 100 arms and eyes and just really well sculpted figures. Well, Aeon Trespass is, as far as the figures go, are all in that same vein.
Sci-fi range,
it's a combination. It's like the Odyssey stuff. So you've got a ship,
mythological.
And then you're controlling these titans. You're building them and you control them. So you're these massive, huge, like, I don't know about Godzilla size, but they're big, and you control them and you can build them, and you have a ship, and you can build your ship up and that kind of stuff as you adventure, and this map unfolds, and Seventh Continent kind of a vibe, which is a game where you have these cards that play out and kind of choose your path story kind of thing. And but beautiful figures. The game looks really cool. There's some videos out on it. See, they made $1 million on it on the Kickstarter. They're a Polish company as well. Into the Unknown is the company. So yeah, it looks really cool. I can't wait for that one.
I have Dark Trails RPG, which is from the Dungeon Crawl Classics folk, or at least maybe a third party. I'm not sure if it's being done by Goodman Games,
which is fabulous,
or an affiliated third party. But so that's going to be a Western. Western sort of horror-ish, I think, role-playing game in the DCC fashion. So
cool.
Much like Dungeon Crawl Classics or Mutant Crawl Class. Is it Mutant Crawl? MCC, Mutant Crawl Classics, which both we've enjoyed playing those. And so similar thing in the dark Western genre that's going to be coming up. And I've been wanting to do a Western game. Well, we have Western Legends, but I've been wanting to do a Western RPG for quite a while, for decades, as a matter of fact, going back to some other brands and games that.
Well, we kind of did with Shadows of Brimstone is a little bit of that, which is a great system.
Tabletop, and so I've thought for a long time I like Westerns and it'd be a good RPG setting, and then adding this the DCC style might make it a little a fun thing to try out and see how that works. You've got so many cinematic aspects to it that I think that'll be a fun thing. And one thing I do plan to do with that, in addition to getting obviously just the game and seeing where that goes, is working to build up some of the scenics to be able to do 3D, with figures and so forth. So
that would be awesome.
Looking forward to that one coming out next year.
For sure. So another one is Sleeping Gods by Ryan Lockett, and great game designer. And again, another one of these big open world storybook type games. I'm sure a lot of people that are listening know about it. He made over $1 million. So it's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to it. And hopefully, I know he's still working on the game itself. So, but yeah, it's just one of those big kind of seventh continent again, story-driven games. You're laying cards out and adventuring and picking your path, and it affects future paths in the game and all that kind of thing. So it's just it looks really, really cool.
Should we check with Ken and see what he's got on the drawing board?
Yeah. What channel? I can't remember. How do we get him in here?
Is it Channel Dumbass?
What?
Channel 10. Channel 10, Ken.
Okay. There we go. Hey, Ken. So what do you got coming up on Kickstarter?
What games have I kickstarted? Well, there are actually a few. There's Be a Better Human, which is the sequel to Nakamura Tower, done by a Polish group. I think they're headquartered in England, but I think they're actually based out of Poland somewhere. And I can't remember the name of the company now that's doing it, but I didn't actually kickstart it. There was a late pledging that you could do with it that I did, and ordered the basic set and all the Kickstarter goodies, freebies, or stretch goals that came with it. Have not yet received it yet. They're more than a year behind on that, so I don't know if it's something to do with the companies in Poland like Protos and Warzone and Aliens vs. Predator, or if it's something else going on. I did get confirmation from them via email that my pledge had shipped. I got no tracking information or anything like that, so I'm cautiously optimistic that it is in fact steaming its way to me. I hope. We'll see. But I also, of course, CMON, cool mini or not, I've pledged Project Elite, and that's not due until next year. And also but I'm looking forward to that, especially from the miniature standpoint. And I also pledged the group out of Charlottesville, Monster Scenery, Monster Terrain, or Monster Fight Club, sorry. And their terrain, pre-painted plastic terrain bits. And I got that mostly because it looks like it'll be great for fantasy gaming, war gaming, as well as role playing. Might use it for World War II stuff that we do, although it's not hyper realistic looking. But it's not comic book looking either. So we'll see what it actually looks like on the table. But boy, oh boy, I got a ton of stuff for not a lot of money from those guys, and it does look really beautiful, and it's all pre-painted. And as we all know, I love making terrain. But it's the redheaded stepchild of the hobby, right? There's always terrain projects that get pushed aside because you have miniatures to paint. And I realize that I am at that point where I'll never finish painting everything I own, probably, because I still have miniatures from 1977 in my to-do list that I'm never going to get to them because, we've moved on. But, and no one wants them, so what am I going to do with them? Maybe I'll make a boat anchor out of them one day. I'm not sure. But the biggest Kickstarter project that I currently have that is steaming its way to me because I got the FedEx tracking information and it should be here in 3 days is CMON's Death May Die, the Cthulhu game. Looking forward to that. In fact, when we get it, we'll do an unboxing, and then we'll do hopefully an immediate playthrough of it, because it's an entirely different mechanic from the Zombicide games, which is an excellent mechanic, but it's going to play a little differently, and it's a great premise, right? In a way it reminds me a bit of Warcry in that it's a cut to the chase. What I've heard, I don't play Age of Sigmar, but what I've heard about Warcry is it's Age of Sigmar starting turn 2 to a certain degree, in that the table space is so small that you start right on top of one another and you're immediately throwing hands and shooting arrows. Well, the Call of Cthulhu game from CMON, of course, starts with you trying to stop the ritual. So all the evil cultists have got together and they've said their hoodly doodly and the IE if it taketh the Cthulhu rise, right? And so the clock is ticking until the bad rituals are. And so it's all the meat of the third act without all the drudgery of the exposition of the first act kind of thing. So I'm looking forward to playing it. And, of course, painting the miniatures that come in.
Huh? Oh,
Good, very good.
that was a great nap.
Good answer. Yeah,
Oh, hey,
real good.
thanks,
Nice
Ken.
job. I'm going to go off of the Kickstarter mode for a moment and just reveal the another RPG that I'm going to try to run. Blades in the Dark. This is put together by a fellow by the name of John Harper, Evil Hat Productions, and it's a nice book here. Sort of fantasy, Victorian, steampunkish a little bit genre, where the players are essentially scoundrels, thieves. They put together a crew in what they call an industrial fantasy city, sort of a little bit of a Victorian feel to it, and there are ghosts, some supernatural aspects to it. You're trapped in the city, so there's not, everything will take place within the confines of this dark Vol city, and the players put together a crew, whether they're being a cult or a group of assassins or smugglers or things, essentially they're bad guys and girls, and do missions and kind of build their turf and go through a campaign of that and see how that works out. So maybe get together a small group who are willing to do that and see what we can do with that. So
That would be really cool.
looking forward to Blades in the Dark.
All right. Going back to Kickstarter. So Etherfields is another game. Again, another story kind of adventure game in a dream world, and again with really wild looking figures and things like that. But again, it's just a really robust adventure game. Very creepy looking. Again, they made $5 million in their Kickstarter. And I'm just really excited about this one. I'm really looking forward to it, and definitely be doing a playthrough of that some of it. Again, it's story driven. Those kind of games are kind of hard to do. There's some out there because you don't want to give anything away. But once it's been out for a while, doing some playthroughs for other people that play, they can kind of see how you played it. We can do things like that. Got an name?
Hearts of Woolen.
Yeah, I was just going to say
with Lowell Francis.
Yep.
And others, which is, I think, sort of an Oriental style
Yep.
fantasy. It's a role playing game.
Yep.
And again, I just back that, knowing that Lowell is a great game designer and writer, and so I haven't been following it too much, other than to see on the updates. It looks like some of the artwork is going to be, or all of the artwork is going to be really nice. It looks like they're paying attention to detail on the artwork, and everything that I've done that Lowell has run, in the past or designed, is always really good and clever, and so I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, I know Lowell's written some comics. He's done a Rocketeer comic. He's done a Superman comics. Something else. That mouse thing. Some sort of mouse. I can't. Anyways, he's actually done some big stuff. So, I've got Ultra Quest. Just again, that's kind of coming out. Another Brady Sadler Brothers. I think I said Brady Brothers. I meant Sadler Brothers for the Hour Need. They also they're doing this Ultra Quest, which is a fantasy adventure game, which looks really cool. Again, similar card system for that. And then so many. God, my wife's going to kill me. Oh, one that I should have right now and I don't is Tainted Grail: The Fall of Avalon. And again, another big story. Lay cards out and build a map and adventure, and you can affect how the game plays and stuff. And it's
like Gloomhaven, like that type of a thing, or
a little bit, yeah. It's Arthurian kind of legends kind of thing. But the cool thing is, all the heroes went out to try to solve this problem, and then they didn't come back. So all the guys that really aren't heroes, that are kind of they're just
the leftovers.
Yeah, leftovers. They have to go out and try to take care of all the problem now, and great concept. Again, beautiful art, great figures, that whole thing. Well, people are playing it right now. And I made the big mistake of not paying attention, and they delivered the game, and you can get them in different waves. Well, I picked get it all in one shipment, and game companies, I understand, it's kind of nice because then people can save a little bit on shipping because they're going to go at once, but I almost wish it wasn't an option because I wasn't paying attention, and now I had to wait all the way probably till August before I get the game, and got a bunch of other stuff with it.
You only have 73 other games to fill your time with in the meantime.
But it's just, you see everybody playing it and having fun, and they made 6 million. Let's see, God, I've got way too many games.
Here's one. I got The Last Will and Testament of Obadiah Faulkner for DCC RPG. And I can't remember if that means that that's for if it's for Dark Trails or if it's just for DCC with a Western tinge. I really don't remember, and I'm slightly embarrassed, but I don't really care. I'll run it either way. And you didn't fund that, did you?
No.
Okay, so even if it is DCC, I can run it without having some overlap.
Right.
And but anyway, that's just a sort of a module, like an adventure type thing. So that should be coming pretty quickly.
Cool.
And along with, I'll jump in with one other one, which is, I don't know if you did this, Jim, or not, but the Smoking Worm.
No, I don't know what
it's like a DCC. I got to find the exact name of it. A DCC magazine, like a fanzine.
Oh.
Which again, the PDF should be coming out pretty quickly here, maybe just after the beginning of the year, and then you get a printed copy as well. And I think it's about $15 or maybe $15 plus $5 for shipping or something like that. Which it's sort of Tales from the Smoking Worm. That's what it is.
Well, that sounds
Issue 1. So it's a little bit of a throwback, as is all of the DCC stuff, to where again, paying a premium for it, I guess, at $15, but to get an actual gaming magazine in the mail is kind of funny in that nostalgic sense. And although I'll probably be getting it by PDF, 6 weeks before it arrives in the mail. But in any event, I thought that would be kind of a fun thing to support, and I'm sure it'll have the kooky DCC artwork and so forth, and of course articles and things like that we can share, even though I'm not running that campaign.
Well, I gotta say, even speaking of that kind of throwback retro vibe, Dark Venture is a game I kickstarted, kind of a card-based adventure game, and it's really cool. I won't go too much into it, but it has actually, I'm using the dice tray all the time. You'll see in all the videos, but it's really cool. Here's my stomach. It's coming out. Should be getting any time. It's shipping now. It's really cool artwork. Just has that kind of dungeon degenerate DCC vibe to it in the artwork and stuff. And I can't wait for that one. Real quickly, I've got D6 Dungeons, Dudes, Dames, Danger, Dice, and Dragons. And that's a cool kind of a board game. It's like you're playing a game where you play the role of a player playing a role-playing game. So it's kind of
a great idea,
and it's really funny, and it's got a lot of humor to it. It's got great artwork. Really cool. The company's Certifiable Studios, a great company. They make great little funny videos about their product and stuff. And looking forward to that one. They're getting close to shipping. Z-War 1 Exodus, the zombie game, modern day kind of zombie game. Looks really cool. They've already got one out. I can't think of what the first one that came out. This is kind of a furthering of that game. And I think that's about. Of course, we've got just got Black Rose Wars, which is a great game by Ludus Magnus, and then behind we've got Sine Tempora, which I've obviously got playthroughs on right now, and then Nova Aetus is something which is kind of the precursor to Sine Tempora as far as the way the game plays. And again, that's Renaissance Venice with the Papal Army and the Venice mercenaries and fantasy fae creatures and things in it, and it's really cool. And I'm going to try to do a playthrough of that, kind of show how it plays a lot like Sin Tempora.
Words with Friends just came out with Lightning Duel, for my Scrabble phone game addiction, that will be up on the docket. Cool. And Washington Redskins will probably end up with either the number 1 or the number 2 pick in the draft, given their lack of success on the field.
Yeah, and as you can see, I like the Dolphins, so I'm kind of in the same boat. I think. Oh, and then there's one other one I want to talk about, which I just backed. I got to find it here. Where it is saved.
Well, you look for that. Why don't we check in with Ken?
Yeah.
And to see what he's been doing on the painting front with miniatures.
Crazy. Okay.
Miniatures painting.
Let's tune him in again. What channel again?
Ask.
10, right?
Channel 10. Channel 10, Ken.
Oh, there he is. Hey, Ken. So how you talk about your painting?
Well, the funny thing about it is, of course, I have been painting and documenting. I've been painting since 1973. The first thing I ever painted was a plastic dinosaur. And I remember it now. My mother got mad at me for ruining my pretty. You put paint on that. Yeah, it was fun, right? But for fast forward to today, and really since 1992, 93, whatever it was, Sean, that we went to Gen Con, back when Gen Con was still in Wisconsin, and I bought all those Cryomech miniatures from, I think, Living Forge Foundries Miniatures. Anyway, a Scottish company that was making them, I think. And because they had a buy one, get one free sale on Sunday at the end of the con, so I just bought a bunch of them because they were vaguely alien looking, meaning from, Ridley Scott or H.R. Giger, alien looking. So, I picked those up. That was the first time I started painting with contrast paints. What you say, contrast paints only came out this year. Yeah, but essentially the principle I've been using ever since then, which is you take some future floor polish, which is essentially a bottle of liquid acrylic, and you mix that with your pigment and a little bit of water to thin it out if you need it thinned out, which I always did 50-50 mix, and then I would thin my paints out with it and wash that on, and I always called that wash painting, not contrast painting. But I get it, because what it does is it highlights the contrasts within the or on the miniature, I guess. Right? So I've been doing that for a long time. Now, the problem with doing it yourself is you never get any two paint mixed consistently, unless, you could if you really were, taking the time to do it with a scale or a measuring pipette or something like that, which, of course, I never did. Getting it mixed right. When you just mix it with a brush on your palette, that's not the same as, I'm sure, shaking it in a can shaker for, an hour before you bottle it and send it off, like I'm sure Games Workshop probably does. So the thing that's been nice about the Games Workshop contrast paints, and of course, I would paint stuff, show it, and people are like, did you use contrast paints on them? Like, no, I don't know what a contrast paint is. Well, this year, Gen Con, I went, and they had free demo. All you had to do was wait in line to attempt to use their contrast paints. I used them, fell in love with them immediately, and I've been using them, not exclusively, but I've been using them a lot ever since, certainly for all my Warcry stuff, for most of my Warcry stuff. Because, wow, this stuff is great. It's easy to use. It's fast. It's already mixed, so I don't have to worry about it. And I love, not that it was a total chore before, but I have to say using Games Workshop's contrast has brought the love of the activity back for me a bit. I think it's a lot of fun. You push the paint into the corners and you drag it around over here and that sort of thing. And the immediate effect is great. And I'm no great painter. I think I have a decent tabletop standard. And the faster I can get to that and get the figures onto the table, because, I've never told anyone you can't play with that because it's not painted. But my own personal, with the exception of 2 times in my life so far, and I'm in my 50s, I have always held by until I get it done painted, I'm not playing with it, because that's always been sort of a motivational factor personally for me. But when Drop Zone Commander came out, I'm like, no, we got to play this game before I get all this stuff painted. And I did. And then when Warcry came out, I'm like, okay, I've got to play this game either by using proxy miniatures that are already painted or just the ones that I assembled. Part of the reason I do that too is because I feel like if you play with it and it is not painted, then you're handling the miniatures, and before you know it, you've got your dirty little hands all over them, and the paint won't go on them, and blah 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 blah. So that's been part of it too, not because it's some sort of aesthetic thing that well, your figures are not painted well enough to be on the table with mine. That's certainly not the case, but the thing about the contrast paints is, wow, you can get there so much faster and with much less hassle. You can get a really decent tabletop standard out of your painting. It's beautiful. So, and so that's what I'm currently painting right now. In fact, I'm getting ready, and I will be posting pictures to show the Games Workshop Warcry Chimera, which I'm getting ready to paint even as we speak.
Hurts from Oklahoma.
Yeah. I know Dolphins are going to try to get a quarterback too. Oh, hey, Ken.
Oh, sorry. You done?
Yeah, your painting sounds great.
Yeah, that's beautiful, really good stuff.
You're good.
Nice.
All right. So, I also, another one by Ludus Magnus Studios is DEI, Divide et Impera, Divide and Rule, I think. You're a Latin guy. That's coming out. Really cool game. There's playthroughs on that. But the one that I... kind of based on the Deep Madness universe, which is a really cool game that's coming out. People are getting a bunch of that stuff in. It's called Dawn of Madness by Dimension Games, and it's again another one of those really horror-based, dreamy in your mind, just crazy figures and stuff like that. Game coming out, and it's only got 25 days to go. They're approaching. God, they're gonna hit 1 million here soon. And beautiful figures and stuff like that. It looks really cool. And then one game I just found out about, but I'm going to have to wait and get it after the fact because I'm just tapped out, is Divinity Original Sin, the board game. It's a game that you can play on your Xbox or PlayStation, that kind of thing. It's a nice little adventure game. Really cool story. It's great. I've played it on, I've got it on Xbox and all that. But they made a board game, and it's got a really unique system for adventuring and combat. I just started to watch some of the playthroughs on it and stuff. It looks really cool. Let's see where they're at. They're almost at $500,000 right now, and it just started today. So that's going to be huge. So just so many games out there. I wish you guys would stop making them because I can't afford them. I'm going to go broke. But no, it's amazing how much neat stuff's out there.
It's a golden age.
Yeah, it really is. We started back in the 80s and...
in the late 70s, technically.
Yeah, and it's amazing where we started and where it's at now. And we're still playing the same stuff that we played back then. And, so it's not like those... You move past all that. We would go back and forth from new to old. So it's all relevant and just amazing. And there's a bunch of games that I didn't kickstart that maybe we'll pick up later too. The Cult of Barnacle Bay. I picked up. It was a Kickstarter. Dungeon Dive has a really good playthrough of it. I really like that channel. But that's a great game. It's another dungeon explorer game, and with anthropomorphic animal characters. So you've got bears and shark people and stuff like that, and really neat system, plays really well, really good backstory to it. Just got that and kind of set it up and started playing that. But Dungeon Dive has a really good playthrough of it, and I may do one, but he's already kind of taken care of that, I think.
When thinking about the gaming situation, we're still playing some of the same games or same style of games, and Car Wars, BattleTech, Dungeons and Dragons, shifted forward into different formats or versions or things like that. But it's almost that the elements of what limits our playing have reversed, because back when we were in junior high, we had very limited funds and, relatively speaking, unlimited time. So we could play a lot, but with fewer games. and now we have more funds available and can try out a lot of these games, and just not enough time to try all of it. So it's a reversal of all that, but it's a good problem to have.
Right. So
And
let me ask you a question. So, and again, it's not a hard, fast question or whatever, but it's just, if you had to pick, and we'll ask Ken this too, if you had to pick one genre of game, let's say, we'll break it into tabletop miniature warfare games, and then you can obviously break that into time period, but that basic genre, role-playing games, or the new world of board games, if you had to pick, and again, so many cross over into different worlds, but
yeah,
just those basic genres, and then we'll throw card games in there too, like Magic and stuff. If you had to pick out of those four, if you had only one thing to take to an island, what would you take?
am I by myself or with the gaming crew?
Well, you know what I mean. Yeah, like with a crew.
With a group of
Yeah,
playing.
yeah.
Well, boy, that is a really funny question.
I don't know why I was just thinking about it.
Yeah, I could pick any of them. I guess if I had to pick only one, then I would say like the new, it's not that new, but the more recent development of board games almost gives you I don't want to say the best of everything, but the best blend of everything, to where like a game that has supplements to it or expansions where you can do campaign mode. Well, that's almost like an RPG, and yet you could play a session within a couple of hours. And yet there's still the classic RPG. There's something very special about that, and that's what we started with. And then again, I also like miniatures games. It's just they take longer, but if you're on a desert island, then we got all the time in the world. So a nice. So yeah, very tough to say. And I guess if I had, I may revise it later. But if I had to pick one, I guess I would probably go with a really good campaign level of a board game.
Yeah, see, I think that's what the question, when you ask that question, you really can't, it's hard to answer, but it's also because of where we're at now with games, they've kind of blended together. And I agree. I think I would go with that same answer. I like the kind of campaigny, especially these big story-driven, because they very are much like playing a role.
And you could add the role playing, could add the role playing aspects as much as you want to play it up.
Yeah, because a lot of them, again, you're building your characters up, you have experience, and if you're playing with a group, you can always do a little bit of the
more or less. The difference is you're not designing the character.
Right.
It's a template that's given to you, so but then what you do with that is.
Right. It's like getting a module and then playing it. Yeah, but not really a fair question or a good question, I guess. But it's just,
good.
Makes you think, and it is kind of shows you how the worlds have just slowly, from again when we started, everything was kind of cut and dry, and now it's just all kind of merged into this big thing. And
you know what game I was just thinking about it driving over here, just on the topic of what would be something interesting to discuss. A game that we did somewhat. I think mainly you and I played it, but that I would love to see an updated version was Red Zone.
Oh yeah,
the NFL game, NFL card game, from 24 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, we worked with
23 years ago.
Next Games.
And it's not going to happen, but I don't think. But
Right.
I don't know if there's really a market for it.
What was
But
their logo? Something about punt.
oh, there was a review that it was a positive review, but the writer didn't really understand football terms, and so he meant to say Red Zone scores a touchdown, something good, and instead said Red Zone punts, which is that's when you're kicking the ball away, giving it up. But so the headline was about Red Zone punting, but he really meant scoring.
They did a baseball game. I can't remember what that was called. The baseball one. And then
That was also good. The baseball one was
and then
very
they
good.
did the X-Files, the card game, and then and then we got involved with them, and then that's kind of when they.
And I don't really, I'm not interested in fantasy football all that much. I mean, it's really fantasy bookkeeping, but the card game was.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was a fun game, and
had the
I like the
actual-
subject matter. I love football, so I like the
And
subject
it had the
matter.
actual players' pictures on it because it was made by Leaf.
It's a collectible game that you would update every
Yeah.
season. That would be the idea.
Right.
It just didn't follow through. But I would like, this isn't the desert island question, but it just made me think of a game I would like to see.
Well, Kim, what would your choice be? Oh, wait. Oh, there he is. Go ahead.
Why don't you mute him so we don't have to...
That's a really good
Here, I'll
question.
unplug him.
Really hard one to answer, actually.
Oh,
My
it's still
immediate
there. Well,
all-in response is chess, because it's so simple to play. But, it has its limitations. One, it's not a lot of fun to play chess. Not when you get really competitive with it, because it takes so much focus, and even to be really bad at it like I am, it takes a ton of focus. So, and it is only 2-player. So I guess to answer that question is, if I'm stuck on a deserted island, but I'm stuck on a deserted island with someone other than me, because otherwise I'd just play chess, or maybe solitaire, but with an actual deck of cards. But I think if I'm on a group or an island with people that I can actually play with, then I don't know, it might be Warcry, and I have a strong sensation that the reason Warcry comes up as my answer for that is because it's what I'm currently playing right now, so it's what I'm most familiar with. But, it is very fast. You can play a lot of games in a short amount of time, and because of the deck structure of the deployment, of the terrain setup, and all of that, no 2 games are ever going to be alike in that for reals, I kind of think that. I also, I almost immediately go, well, Shadow Fist, the card game, because it's my favorite collectible card game. I have probably 3 complete sets of all the cards up through the first 2 expansions of that are just sitting around collecting dust, but I always liked the way it played. Now, the problem with that game, like Illuminati, the card game, is the end game stinks in that game when you play with more than 2 people. Illuminati, playing with 2 people is like kissing your sister. I mean, it really needs to be a 5-player game with Illuminati. Shadow Fist does real well with 3 and 4, but the end game sort of stinks. And so, or it can, because everyone gangs up on the guy who's about to win, and then it's the next person who goes who wins. So that makes me hesitant to actually say that would be the game that I would want. So all things being equal, I wonder if the answer wouldn't actually be something more along the lines of Dungeons and Dragons, a game that you could play as a combat skirmish level game, but you could also play with role playing, with infinite possibilities. So I guess I flip over all the cards. My final answer, but then that requires preparation. Not that that's bad, but yeah, I guess my answer would be Dungeons and Dragons in 3D, the way we've always played it, with heavy emphasis on blood sport combat.
All right, thanks, Ken. So I think we're kind of done. We've talked quite a bit here, but as you can see, and then we got some playthroughs. Again, I want to do Nova Aetas here coming up. Whatever else, maybe more Arena and whatever other games. We still have 2 games that
Well, Western Legends, I'm gonna run that the day before Thanksgiving. I hope the Anti-Up edition. So maybe we'll film,
which is a great
at least highlights.
Yeah, fantastic game made locally in Indiana. What's the Simon game? Rising
Sun.
Rising Sun.
Is that Simon?
Yeah, Eric Lang designed it, and Simon game, because he's got his little trilogy, Blood Rage, Rising Sun, and then he's got the Egyptian game.
Oh yeah,
which I can't think what it's called, but and then
Pantheon,
the Mythic game, which again 2 really cool games, and we haven't even had a chance to sit down and really play those yet.
I've played U-Boat once, which is a great game. I played the Robinson Crusoe game a couple times, but that's been around for a few years, and I've got the expansion that I've never played. So yeah, a lot of stuff to get to.
I've had a hard time. I don't think I've won. I've come close, but no. We've just got so many. As you can see on the wall back there, there's a billion games and Wingspan and all these other things. So, but anyways, thanks for watching, and hopefully you'll watch and subscribe and
give us your comments. What you think about what we said, and what you're looking forward to, or what you've kickstarted. So maybe we get some conversations going.
Definitely. All right. Well, thanks for watching. We'll see you later.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Cut.